Convention Center. And to begin this program, we pleased to have Mr. Nathakar Wuttichaikorn Kun, President of the Publisher and Booksellers Association of China University.
Good afternoon, everybody. Friends, authors, press, and all the distinguished guests that are here today. I'm happy and I'm really glad that, again, this year we celebrate women literature together. And I see that everybody sitting here, are great authors, press, and really empowering women and women literature together. We, as PUBAT, are partnered with Tomonet this award for many years. And I feel like we should be partnered for a long, long time. Because I really appreciate all of you, working so hard and show the world what a writer can do. And what a writer, a pen, can change the world. Without further ado, I don't want to, keep you guys for too long. Just please enjoy yourself and hope that this event, this talk, we have reached all of us together. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful remarks. For the next step, it is my honor to invite Associate Professor Dr. Trising Bunkajan, Chairperson of the Judging Committee, Chomonat International Women Literary Award 2025, to officially open today's event.
Good afternoon. สวัสดีค่ะทุกท่าน Distinguished guests, respected scholar, fellow readers, and students also, and above all, our extraordinary Asian woman novelists. It is my great honor and deep pleasure to welcome you all to this special gathering, where we celebrate not only literature, but the transformative power of storytelling shaped by the voices of Asian women. Today, we come together to recognize 10 remarkable Asian women novelists whose works have redefined the possibilities of narrative art. Through their creativity, courage, and innovation, they have given us new ways of seeing, remembering, and understanding the world. We welcome the visionary creators behind The Age of Goodbye by Lee Si-Chu from Malaysia. She couldn't make it today. And Chinatown by Don An Tuan from Vietnam. Memories of the Black Rose Cat by Kun Virapon and Mountain Small Ancient by Ishna Marifa from Indonesia. The Mountain Sings by Dr. Nguyen Pan Phu Mai from Vietnam. The Sea Speak His Name by our former Sirikit awardee Laila S. Chudori from Indonesia. And Taiwan Traveler by Yang Xuan-Si from Taiwan. Congress by Lau Yiwa from Hong Kong. And The House on Color Sombra by Jeremiah White from Singapore.
Mariga Ortegas. Mariga.
Oh no, The Original Daughter by Marga Ortega from the Philippines. I think that another day I talk about the, the special characteristic of this novel. But today I would like to tell you, first of all, I would like to introduce our committee, which I think we have international committee. The first person is Jerome Bouchard from France. Okay. And the second from Hong Kong, Louis Law. And Thirapat Charoensuk from Thailand. Anthony John Balisi from the Philippines. Kumara. And Ursa Cairo Gorker from Germany.
No,
Yes, sir.
no, that's not.
He's not here in this room. And Associate Professor Sirikit from Thailand. As chairperson. So I would like to talk a little bit, introduce those who never read all these 10 novels. I would like to tell you that we have many available outside. You can pick up and read. You can be very amazing about the power of women writers here. Okay. So one of the most striking features of these novels is their formal experimentation. Works such as Tongueless and The Age of Goodbyes employ fragmented structures and metafictional techniques to destabilize linear storytelling. Language itself becomes a contested space, reflecting silence identities and fractured subjectivities. Similarly, Taiwan Travelogue reimagines colonial history through layer narration, blending culinary writing with political critique. These formal strategies are not merely aesthetic, they embody the epistemological uncertainty of post-colonial and gender experiences. As memory and trauma, and also gender history. A central concern across these novels is the recovery of suppressed histories. In the Sea Speak His Name and The Mountain Sings, female perspective reconstruct national trauma, political violence, war and exile through intimate, intergenerational narratives. Likewise, Chinatown and Mountain More Ancient foreground displacement and diasporic identity, where women's voices mediate between memory and loss. These narratives challenge official historiography by privileging life experience over institutional narratives, and also the distinguished characteristic of language, silence, and the feminine voice. Female creativity in these works is often articulated through the tension between speech and silence. In Tongueless, the absence of language becomes a metaphor for political and bodily control. In The Age of Goodbyes, silence functions as both trauma and resistance. Meanwhile, Memory of the Black Rose Cat, very more experimental and symbolic work, explore memory through surreal and poetical imagery, suggesting that feminine creativity can transcend realism to access deeper emotional truths. As for global impact and transnational reception, these novels have gained increasing recognition beyond their national context, contributing to the globalization of Asian literature, Translations into English and other languages have allowed them to participate in the international literary conversation about post-colonial identity, gender and power, memory and trauma. For instance, The Mountain Sings has achieved wide international acclaim, while Taiwan Travelogue has been celebrated for its innovative reworking of colonial narratives. Collectively, these works challenge Western literary dominance by offering alternative epistemologies and aesthetic form. All together 10 novels examined in this study, as I mentioned, exemplify for the power of female creativity in contemporary Asian literature through narrative innovation, thematic depth, and political engagement. These works transform silence into voice and marginality into centrality. Ultimately, they demonstrate that female creativity is not merely a literary phenomenon, but a cultural force, one that reshapes how history are told, identities are imagined, and literature itself is defined on a global scale. Across these texts, women writers do not simply tell stories, they rewrite history, reimagine identity, and redefine the possibilities of literature itself. Please give big applause to our panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And may I invite Mr. Thirapat, Secretary General of the Publisher and Booksellers Association of Thailand, and one of the judging committee to deliver a short speech.
Good afternoon, everybody, distinguished guests, and our extraordinary writers who participate in this award and come to the finalists here. As the Secretary General of the Publishers Association and Booksellers Association of Thailand, also the judge of this award, I'd like to tell you that I'm very worried when I read all the books because every book is so excellent. I cannot choose only one sometimes. The story that you tell, the stories that you write will be very good and open the eyes of Thai people who will read this book after the award announced. Yes, but we have only one winner, which we will know tomorrow. Maybe. Yeah. And welcome to Bangkok, welcome to Thailand, and welcome to our National Book Fair. I hope you will enjoy our book fair, enjoy Bangkok, and enjoy Thai Literary Society. I hope that this award, the Shomnat Women's International Literary Award, will bring everyone around the world to take part in Thai literary scene and bring Thai women's literary go to the International Literary Society as well. So thank you for coming today and enjoy this panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But before the panel discussion, I'd like to invite all the judging committee to take a photo together here, please.เชิญนายกถ่ายรูปด้วยนะคะ
ข
มันห้องมันส้ม
กล้องหลังด้วยนะครับเกี่ยวครับ
อีกกล้องนะครับรบกวนนะครับ
ข้างหลังนะครับ
1 2 3 เดี๋ยววิดีโอด้วยนะครับ
ครับวิวคุณกดไลค์ลงไปครับโอเคครับเรียบร้อยครับ
Thank you so much. Last but not least, I'd like to invite the child list writers and country award winners to come up here and take a photo together.
Oh, do you have to bring the book? Oh, okay.
เข้าฝั่งนี้ด้วยเนี่ยเข้าฝั่งนี้ด้วยมุก
Sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
กล้องด้านหลังด้วยนะครับหาไม่ก่อนนะครับหลายกล้องเลยครับ
Thank you so much. Now for the big part of today's event, we are moving on to the main sessions of today's event, sharing knowledge on the path to world literature. We are so lucky to be joined by an incredible group of writers, both our 2025 shortlist authors and our country award winners. And leading our conversation today is Associate Professor Surapi Panchatraporn, Associate Fellow of the Academy of Arts, the Royal Society of Thailand. Everyone please join in welcoming our moderator and speakers to the okay. First, please welcome Duan An Tuan from Vietnam. Second one, Veerapon Nitipapa from Thailand. And Isana Marifa from Indonesia.
Thank you, Nick, for the introduction. Good afternoon, distinguished writers, press, honorable guests, students, and all book lovers. It's our pleasure to set this panel discussion on sharing knowledge on the path to world literature. And we would like to, at this point, warmly congratulate all shortlisted writers on this well-deserved recognition. Being shortlisted is a testament to the quality and creativity of your work, and your talent and dedication have brought you to this stage. And we are very proud to celebrate each and every one of our shortlisted writers. Continuing what Kun Thirapat just told us, after thoroughly reviewing all the works, the jurors found it extremely difficult to reach a decision, as each piece demonstrated exceptional merit and left a profound impact on all the readers. So all the works meet our criteria. You may would like to know what our criteria are for selecting all the shortlisted works. The criteria are themes and ideas that resonate with the shared human experience, artistic excellence in language and technique, quality of translation for the translated works, the ability to uplift the mind and the spirit, and optionally, international recognition. So, Ajahn Singh have given you introduction to all the themes and the ideas and the perspectives presented by our shortlisted writers. So at this moment, I would like to take this time to give you a brief introduction on the writers and their work. And each writer will be asked to talk about yourself, to talk about your work, to talk about whatever you would like to share with us for about a few minutes. So I would like to start with Joanne and Tuan, Chinatown from Vietnam. So could you please tell us about yourself, probably a little bit about your career, your writing, and also the book, Chinatown, please.
When I was a little girl, I loved already literature, especially French literature. It was for me something like a ball of oxygen, fresh air. And at 12, I went to Paris to study at the Sorbonne University. But in the second year of my PhD, I decided to give up my dissertation to become a full-time writer. So now I am at my I write both in French
Yeah. So if I would like you to share with us an episode or a character from your novel, Chinatown, that is especially close to your heart. Could you please just relate that?
Yeah. Chinatown's my first novel.
Yeah,
And,
Chinatown.
yeah, and as usual, I pay a lot of attention to the form. So, for me, how to write is as important as what to write. The form is always my first concern. So I pay a lot of attention for example, the length of sentences, the precision of words, the music of the pause, narrative parts. So, but all these formal choices are merely, are not merely technical. I try to make them, now I try to create emotional and intellectual experience to my readers. So, Chinatown is the novel. Chinatown has no chapter and no. It is for me it's interior. It's an interior monologue.
Interior monologue. So it is very innovative. No
I don't know
chapters.
that.
Yeah, with this innovative technique.
Yes. So you know the narrator of inside, it's a Vietnamese woman in Paris, and took out with her loneliness. She becomes to write. And here I use the technique of mise en abîme. It's novel in a novel.
Novel in a novel. What is it? Novel in a novel? Could you please explain?
So she writes her own novel, and me and write my novel. So the Chinatown is divided into two parts, and there is another novel in the middle of my novel. So yeah.
So is it difficult to read? So when the readers read it, do they know which is your novel, which is the novel within the novel? Is it difficult?
It's not so difficult, but
It's challenging.
yeah, I think it's what is difficult is, for example, French readers said it's very difficult because they cannot stop, when reading because there is no paragraph and no chapters. So, a little
So the last question at this point, what impact you hope that this novel will have on your reader?
The beginning of Chinatown, that the narrator is in the underground, in the metro.
The metro was stopped because one bag.
Yeah, make a suspect.
Yeah. They're
Bag.
trying to find whose bag it is.
So the metro has to stop.
Uh-huh.
And for me, it's, that the metro stop. For me, it's the symbol of West society. Security.
Maybe security in life, the danger that we are encountering every day.
And another image for Paris, Asian people, for example, Paris is Eiffel Tower, and everything, but there's a lot of, there's also a category of Muslim people, and insecurity, the danger, the motive. So I try to give another image of France.
Thank you very much. So next, let's go to the lady on my left. It's you, Kugyapon. You cannot escape. You're here on the stage. You cannot escape anywhere else. So could you please tell us something, share with us maybe your life or your passion, your career, first cat?
I'm a late writer though. I started my first novel at the age of 48. It would come out when I was already 50. And this one another 3 years later. Yeah, because I'm dedicated to living a life, loving a man, 3 cats. And
That's the best one.
yeah, loving a man for 20 years. Just waste of time. But anyway, no. But actually, I wrote the first novel to find a way to write the second one, which is the memory of the Bangkok scam. Because I didn't know what to do. That's all, I know I have something I like to write about, which is like history, how it made us, how it made our futures and things like that. But I don't know what to do. I just sit there and really. So I have to write the Blind Earth one first to find a way to write the second one.
Yes.
Like that. Actually, I plan to have only one novel in my life. But anyway, it's come out 3 already,
Your plan is damaged with the second C writer award.
Yeah. And I think, we all made up of words, we all made up of ideas, we all made up of history, the data, who we are. It's not what we really are. We're not born with, such the idea that who we are really. The information made us. It's made us Thai, it's made us females, it's made us human, even. And then along the way, we have lost this information because we have fake information. We have another thing coming in all the time. It's made us confused, made us lost. I think humanity now is facing this kind of problem that we don't know where we're going. How we know where we're going, why we don't know where we're from, things like that.
This sense of loss, this sense of confusion that you were encountering.
Yes, and then also I'm probably why I'm more concerned, more interested, and actually I'm not really concerned about this so much as I should, but I think we just lost our common sense, our purpose of life, which is so common. Like, we just want to have job, we just want food, we just want love, we just want family, and that's it. We don't, we don't need more than that. We don't need so much money. And of course, war, we don't need war. Yeah, but then things happen all the time with the big concept throwing on our face all the time. And I'm just...
So you can say anything?
No, it makes any sense.
Yes, of course.
I'm sorry.
Of course, everything coming to you makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
Very meaningful, my dear.
Okay. And so what I start with the information first, how we get the information, how we get to know ourselves and people, and that is called memory. Actually, this was called memory. And then it's not, what's the word, it's not genuine. It's not, all of them is not real. Not all of them is real. So that is confusing. Especially these days that we have, we have fake data, we have AI, which is popular data, not the data. The AI is popular data, and then we are fooled by that. It's going to be popular data of ourselves too. Things like that.
Because in your work, I could see that the issue of memory, history, and identity play a big role.
Yes. Because we are all female, being female is taught to be the female too. We were taught that we are incapable. We can't do this job, we can't go that place, we can't, things like that. We can't be a writer, something like that. We were told those information too. When I was younger, I think a lot of things we are not allowed to do. We are not allowed to wear pants on stage like this. We have to wear, skirt, something like that. We have to be modest, polite, and we can't be so. And I really love, because I learned to whistle from my brother, and I just, when I was like in my teen, it just grew. And people just look at me like something like that.
Free-spirited, Veerapong.
Not that free, but we should be freer. Still, if I don't have this memory, I'd be freer.
If I would like to ask you to share an episode or a character from your novel, which is especially close to your heart and it is very meaningful to you. So, because I know that you have there's several generations of people in your novel, and then lots of characters. So just pick one character which is close to your heart, which is very meaningful to you.
Actually, it's John Sawan. Yeah, it's the guy, the adopted child, that no matter how much he did, he can, never get anywhere, no matter how far he went, he could never get anything. He's an outsider of his own life, outsider of society, outsider of the country, even the world. I think that is one thing that I'm really interested in. No, I'm so sorry, I don't write because I have things to write. I write because I want to find the answer for my own self, for myself, things like that. So, I'm interested in outsider people that living outside of their own country, their own hope and fear, everything. Like, it's not only Chinese people, they become citizens and they become like us, Thai citizens living outside our own life too, in many ways actually. Which I found, the same as other writers. When you be an outsider of your own self, that is very, very, what to say, it's very sad. You don't know who you are, you don't know why you're here, and you don't know why things happen in life. What is happening?
Yes, John Sawan is also one of my favorite characters.
He's handsome. Because I made him handsome. I have to make a character so handsome. So people cry when when he's got beat up like that. Yeah.
I sympathize with him.
I think he was something I call equality. When you're born without father and mother, everybody has to have a father or mother, and then you're born like that is the most inequality of human being. You have no father, and you adopted, and they said they're your father, they're your parents, but they don't love you.
Very pitiable.
And he's handsome.
So
脸球伟. He's a 脸球伟.
now I know what is behind your novel. That's the secret. So thank you very much, Veerapong. So moving on to the lady beside us. The last one here for this is Isna Marifa from Indonesia, and her novel is Mountains More Ancient. So could you please share with us your life, your experience, and whatever you'd like to tell us, and also about your novel, please.
This is my first novel, so I'm very honored that I'm sharing space with people who have made multiple books. So it's a bit surreal for me. But I worked in the environment field for many years, and just on a visit to Cape Town, just actually a visit to another country in Southern Africa, had a brief visit to Cape Town and found that a history that connects South Africa with and Indonesia, and something that most Indonesians don't know about, and that's captured in the word that we don't like, which is slavery. So that really got me way to reconnect the Cape Malay people with Indonesians. I think in the process, I mean, in my work, I do research. So the research side is relatively easy. The writing part for me became a liberating process because I was so used to, 30 years writing reports with format, structure, very analytical. Everything has to have be justified with enough data. But suddenly, this novel gave me room to imagine, because a lot of the research came out with gaps in information because the lives of the enslaved people from Indonesia in South Africa were not documented in archives. So that gave me space to put in my imagination. As a young person, I always loved literature, reading literature from everywhere. I could imagine myself in South America, in East Europe, in other parts of Asia, and so that literature has always been a very important part of my life, and all my free time I spent not reading environmental books, but reading literature, basically.
So this is amazing that your background is in environment, and I could say I have read you are a celebrated, a very successful environmentalist, and now environmentalist turned novelist. So our readers, our audience here who have other professions, you might want to be a writer, just like Isna, you're giving them inspiration. So share with us one episode, because when I read your novel, it's like an eye-opening to me, because I have never heard about the slavery, the way that Indonesians were taken to South Africa and became slaves. And you were talking, and then in the book you have like prose and poetry. Well, why is it so? Like one person is speaking in prose, and the other person, I think, is the young girl is speaking in poetry.
Right.
So what is that technique?
Yeah. So. The beginning of the book is Wulan, the young girl, as a 9-year-old girl taken. She's on a ship, and then she discovers they're close to landing on a new land after so many months on the ship. But initially, I had written it in prose, but something bothered me, which was a young girl of 9-year-old would not be speaking in full sentences like an adult. So I wanted to give her a different way of speaking or narrating on the page, which was, I hope, is more similar to how a young girl would speak. So one was easily distracted from jumping from one thing, observing one thing and the next. And also not having full sentences. So I would not call it poetry, but it's verse format. But also, in that way, I wanted to honor the ancient Japanese literature. It's something that I regret never having learned in school, because I was not a literature student. And I think my Japanese is too far away from actually reading old texts. So, but I wanted to honor it as a way of showing that, this is a modern novel, but I hope it has not gone too far from its Japanese roots.
Thank you very much, then. Let us give our 3 shortlisted writers. And now we would like to invite Ms. Hue Mai from Vietnam, Laila S. Shudari from Indonesia, and Yang Suomsju from Taiwan. Onto the stage, please. Ms. Yang Suomsju just doesn't speak English, and she has her interpreter here with us. All right. So I would like to start with the lady beside me on the left, Laila Shudari, who is also a Sirikit winner. What year? I can't remember.
Sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. I think the Sirikit Award was for 2020, but we were invited to come here in 2023 because of the pandemic.
But we were talking over the sky by
that was 2020.
the Zoom. Yeah, that's right. And again, I would like to show us your life, your passion, your writing career, and also a little bit about your novel on The Sea Speaks His Name. Please.
Okay, maybe I will start that I've been writing since I was very, very young. Because I wrote when I was really, really young. Then I started with children's stories and then young adult stories. But when I started writing something serious, like writing literature in some literary magazine, that time my focus was much more on gender, problems of gender in the country. And then I went to school in Canada for a scholarship. But when I came back, I started to realize, actually when I was studying in Canada, I realized that there are many, many literature that I read and is not available in Indonesia because they are banned. So that really opened my eyes. So when I came back to Indonesia, I joined the magazine. I start writing, my themes start to expand because we have to cover a lot of politics and historical events that's not allowed to be, it's not in the formal history by the government. So I was very interested in what happened with the families who never know what happened with their members of family. So the theme of my novels start to be different. It was heavily influenced by being a journalist, obviously, based on just the theme. I think it's a little bit similar to, in some ways similar to what Isna said, that when we're journalists, we know a lot of things, but we could only write as much, just the facts. This happened to this family. They're not allowed to have jobs in public sphere because they are considered communists, and therefore you're not allowed to openly share your ideology. And a lot of people in my office are the children or the grandchildren of communist people, and they cannot even put their names. So I was very much interested in that. I'm talking about my previous novel before this. It's called Pulang, Home. And then this was similar. It's a similar case where there were students, activists who were arrested. They were kidnapped and they're missing. And then the half of the story, as you may have read, it's about the family who are looking for the missing children until now.
Yes. So you started off writing children's stories.
Yeah, when I was a kid.
And then your background is in journalism. And then you have the your concern is very much like heavy on politics.
Politics and history. Yeah.
Politics and history.
Yeah.
So how did you combine politics and history in your novel?
I think that's something that you cannot really separate in my country, because the history is always a political decision. It's not an academic decision, at least in Indonesia. But when I went to I was invited to several other countries. Like I was invited to give a keynote speech in Australia for a literary event. They also said the same. They said that, oh, in Australia, they don't write about the origin in the history. So apparently it's the same in some other countries. So politics and history is, I think, is overlapping. Because the people in politics have interest, have vested interest not to write history that involves blood or victims. They would prefer to write the glory and everything with a positive tone, and they do not want to admit that there have been a lot of victims every 20 or 30 years.
So history is like, who is writing history?
Exactly.
So if you have 5 people writing history, you have 5 versions of history, which may be completely different.
Not really completely different. Like, for example, nowadays in the new era, the government decided to gather 120 historians, I think, and then they would write about the outline, the Indonesian history from 1945 until now. And obviously they would write what they consider positive. But there are other historians who do not want to be a part of that. And they're the ones who would write, like serious and accountable history, what really happened. And I think we could also count about oral history, because the people who experienced 1945 revolution against Dutch, yeah, or 1965 when there was a purge, we still witnessed that. My parents witnessed that, so they can give oral testimony, right? And then 1998, I witnessed, my generation witnessed that, and then we still can give our experience on what happened, during May 1998. So right now, a lot of people rely on testimony instead of the formal history, and apparently they also rely on historical fiction, because not only because they think it's entertaining, but because they feel that they're reading something between the lines that is not in the formal history. And from there, and then they will look something maybe from the foreign historians who write about Indonesia.
Thank you very much then. Now I turn to Yang Song-Jun. ให้พูดภาษาไทยเด็กภาษาอังกฤษเลยนะคะอะไรนะคะแปลภาษาไทยหมายถึงว่าที่เขาพูดจะให้อาจารย์พูดภาษาไทยภาษาอังกฤษใช่ไหมคะ Now Yang Song-Jun from Taiwan. Then this is Taiwan Travelog, and just like other shortlisted writers, I would like Yang to tell us a little bit about your life, about your writing career, about your passion, aspiration, and also about your book, Taiwan Travelog. Please.
那非常感谢在这里，在此的各位，我很荣幸可以来到这里。首先先跟大家打个招呼，我是杨双子，谢谢。
อันดับแรกนะครับก็ยินดีที่ได้มาอยู่ตรงนี้กับทุกคนนะครับแล้วก็รู้สึกเป็นเกียรติมากๆก่อนอื่นก็ขอสวัสดีทุกคนก่อนนะครับก็ฉันชื่อหยางชุนสือค่ะ
It's my pleasure and honor to be here on this stage, and good afternoon to everybody.
那我就说一下这个小说的书写，它的整个格式蛮复杂的，然后整体而言，他写了一个1938年的台湾受到日本殖民时期的故事。
ก็ก่อนอื่นก็จะบอกก่อนว่าหนังสือเรื่องนี้ก็ค่อนข้างที่จะซับซ้อนเพราะว่าจะเขียนเกี่ยวกับเรื่องสมัยปี 1938 ที่ไต้หวันเนี่ยเคยเป็นอาณานิคมของญี่ปุ่น
This novel is rather complex because it was written in 1938 when Taiwan was under the colony of Japan.
即使在亚洲里面，其实包含日本人，可能都不是很清楚台湾曾经被日本殖民过。更可怕的其实是台湾人也很多人并不清楚台湾曾经被日本殖民的时候，我们究竟经验过哪些事情。
จริงๆในช่วงในภูมิภาคของเราก็หลายคนอาจจะไม่รู้ว่าไต้หวันเคยเป็นอาณานิคมของญี่ปุ่นมาก่อนรวมถึงคนไต้หวันเองด้วยที่ฉันเขียนหนังสือนี้ขึ้นมาเพื่อที่จะให้คนไต้หวันเนี่ยจำได้ว่าเคยเกิดอะไรขึ้นบ้างที่แผ่นดินไต้หวัน
Probably many people just didn't know that Taiwan was a colony of Japan. So the reason why I wrote this book because I would like to remind people who just forgot or who just didn't know about this that Taiwanese and Taiwan was under the colonization of Japan.
那么这个故事呢，就刻意写了一个1938年，有个日本的女作家到了殖民地的台湾，跟台湾人就是他的同一间地陪，两个人一起旅行了1年的故事。所以它有一个轻松的，很像是旅游美食的框架，但我们要讨论的是殖民的问题。
ก็เนื้อเรื่องจะเป็นเรื่องเกี่ยวกับนักเขียนชาวญี่ปุ่นคนหนึ่งที่เป็นผู้หญิงเข้ามาอยู่ที่ไต้หวันแล้วก็มีคล้ายๆว่าเป็นไกด์ก็จะพาไปเที่ยวพาไปกินในที่ต่างๆเนื้อเรื่องก็จะมีค่อนข้างมีความสบายๆเรื่อยๆแต่ว่าก็จะเน้นพูดถึงเรื่องของการที่ไต้หวันเนี่ยโดนญี่ปุ่นยึดครองด้วย
So the story goes that a Japanese tourist came to Taiwan and she had a Taiwanese interpreter taking her along and then So this interpreter takes this Japanese woman around to see the city and to see the island of Taiwan instead of going to some grand event. Is that right? From the novel.
因为它是一个2个女性的美食之旅的故事，所以很多人可以用轻松的角度来看这个故事，也很常有一些回馈是告诉我说，看着他们吃吃喝喝，觉得也肚子饿，也想要去旅行。
ก็ด้วยความที่เป็นเรื่องของผู้หญิง2 คนไปเที่ยวไปหาของกินไปอะไรกันคนที่อ่านแล้วเนี่ยก็จะรู้สึกว่ามีคนมาพูดกับฉันเหมือนกันว่าอ่านแล้วค่อนข้างหิวเลยเหมือนกัน
Because these women going around tasting food and enjoying themselves. So when the readers read the book, they feel hungry. Did you feel hungry? Yes.
因为这个故事本身里面探讨的就是殖民的权利问题，它很艰涩、很困难。可是我希望大家不要被这个巨大的问题吓到不敢看，所以我故意用一个那么轻松的东西来谈论它。
เพราะว่าตัวหนังสือเนี่ยจะเน้นพูดไปถึงความโหดร้ายแล้วก็ปัญหาของตัวการ colonize ของญี่ปุ่นทีนี้ก็เลยเลือกใช้วิธีที่มันค่อนข้างที่จะสบายๆคือเรื่องของอาหารเรื่องของการไปเที่ยวเนี่ยมันทำให้ทุกคนรู้สึกว่าอ่านได้ย่อยได้
Actually, the message of the book is very serious. It's about the colonization, the cruelty of the Japanese. But then she would like the way she present her message is very light-hearted. She presented her message through food, Taiwanese delicacies, and through journeying, going around, enjoying holidays like that.
对，那之所以会这样写，其实也跟我个人一直以来关注的议题有关。因为我是一个女同性恋者，这是3个元素嘛，女同性恋者。然后我喜欢美食，我是个爱吃鬼。然后我也喜欢铁道，所以就变成了这个故事。
ก็คืออันนี้ก็คือเหมือนเขียนมาจากตัวเขาด้วยครับด้วยความที่อย่างตัวละครเป็นหญิงรักหญิงซึ่งเขาก็เป็นหญิงรักหญิงแล้วเขาก็เป็นคนที่ชอบท่องเที่ยวชอบทานอาหารอะไรประมาณนี้
So the source of the novel comes from herself. She loves traveling, and she loves women. So you have this kind of relationship, kind of female relationship, not just friend but as lover. So this also reflects her personal life as well. Yeah, that leads me to the question because when I was reading the book and I was it wasn't very it wasn't very clear, very evident that these two women. But then I was wondering at the end of the book, the two ladies who were together and who were enjoying themselves so much, and then they had to part, and I could feel the sad feelings of separation. So why does it end like that? I would like to say, what is the meaning of the book at the end when these two women have to be separated? It's not a very happy ending though.
其实我觉得这是台湾历史发展以来，写到这个结局已经算是最好的结局了。因为历史上来说，就是没有办法有我们所能想象的 happy ending。
ก็คือเหมือนย้อนกลับไปในประวัติศาสตร์ด้วยครับที่คิดว่าผู้หญิงกับผู้หญิงเนี่ยน่าจะอยู่ด้วยกันไม่ได้ตอนจบก็เลยออกมาเป็นแบบนั้น
Oh, so she's following the structure of the novel. I thought laid down by men probably that women are not supposed to be together. Women are not supposed to love each other, and women are not supposed to be happy together. So you following that structure, right? The framework.
还有就是因为他们在成年的关系本来就有一个很难跨越的权力位阶的落差，那再加上后来有战争，所以整个历史发展，两个女人要在一起都是不可能的，所以有了这个故事这样的安排，已经算是比较温柔的安排。
ก็จริงๆมีเหตุผลอื่นนะครับเพราะว่าช่วงนั้นก็คือในเรื่องของประวัติศาสตร์ด้วยที่ตอนนั้นไต้หวันอยู่ภายใต้ญี่ปุ่นแล้วก็จะมีสงครามมีอะไรเกิดขึ้นแล้วก็เลยทำให้ชาวสองคนเนี่ยจำเป็นที่จะต้องแยกกันและเป็นเรื่องของเพศด้วย
So it's not just gender oriented, but it's also the state of the war at the time that they just couldn't be together. I would also like my last question would be on Taiwanese cuisine. That you say that when people read your book and they would like to go eat. So what is the most famous dish in the book? So that we can go and try to find. Yeah, we'll go together. So what is that dish which is so popular, so good, so delicious?
首先，我就说这个问题非常困难，但因为我会讲它很困难，一个原因是台湾太多美食了，就跟泰国一样。
ก็ต้องบอกว่าคำถามนี้ยากมากครับเพราะว่าจริงๆที่ไต้หวันเนี่ยอาหารก็อร่อยพอๆกับที่ไทยเยอะมากๆเลย
Yes, yeah. Yes, I have the same experience. Taiwanese food is very good, wherever you go, in all restaurants.
我非常喜欢泰国菜。
ฉันชอบอาหารไทยมาก
但如果一个要选一
So
个
which do you prefer, Thai food or Taiwanese?
泰式吗？对啊，如果是像我非常喜欢。
And what do you prefer, Thai women or Taiwanese women?
Her wife is here. Watch out, her wife is here.
Why I'm asking this question because I was looking at the eyes of all the audience and I think that they would like me to ask this question. I could read your mind, so I am your spokesperson. Now, answer.
我们来讲泰国菜跟台湾菜。
ถ้าอย่างนั้นเรากลับมาพูดเรื่องอาหารไทยอาหารไต้หวันกันดีกว่า
We had better come back to Thai cuisine and Taiwanese cuisine. I prefer not to make judgments, make a decision.
我先讲台湾菜的话，真的太难了，但我就会讲卤肉饭，因为它是有台湾几种元素组合才能成为这个料理，但没有时间细谈这样。因为卤肉饭，但太难翻译了，所以我要谈论这个菜的话会花很多时间，没有办法，请大家看小说好了。就卤肉饭，然后如果是泰国菜的话。 ถ้าผมถามแฟนชอนถามเขา
ก็ถ้าเป็นอาหารที่แนะนำเป็นอาหารไต้หวันก็จะเป็นข้าวหมูตุ๋นครับที่ชื่อว่าโรฟันใช่แต่ว่าถ้าจะให้พูดถึงโรฟันเนี่ยก็จะค่อนข้างใช้เวลานาน
ค่ะ so ข้าวหมูตุ๋นนะคะ let's go and eat ข้าวหมูตุ๋น for your dinner Alright, thank you very much thank you and then last but not least Quê Mai, Dr. Quê Mai from Vietnam the mountains sing please
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you today? How are you? Thank you. Are you having fun with us? You know, I read today that every day we need to have joy. And I feel so joyful to be here, to be among, authors and book lovers and celebrate our love for literature with all of you. I would like to thank the Chomanas Award Committee for doing such a great job in putting this event together. And thank you for the judges for their amazing work over the past few months. I can't imagine reading so many books in such a short time, but they made amazing decisions. I read a lot of books in this short list and I love them all, and you should too. So please check out the books that are shortlisted and they won the country awards because they're all amazing. And I was very moved to hear Professor Boon Kak John, who spoke about our books with such empathy and such deep understanding of our craft and our mission as writers. So thank you very much. Thank you. I think she should win an award for her speech, right? For her criticism. It's so amazing. So thank you. And also, of course, Professor Chakrahorn for doing such an amazing job in moderating this event and making us laugh as well, and for working as our translator today. For me, it's more than a dream come true that I am here. You know, I grew up in Vietnam in a very small village, and I remember when I was in high school, my parents went bankrupt. We lost everything. We had to sell our house. We had to, the debtors came and took my bicycle away. They took the radio with which I was trying to learn English. I lost everything except for a few books that we had. The books that my father had made, hardcovers out of cardboard so that they would not fall apart because I had read them so many times. But I did not have anything to hang on to except for the hope in the books I was reading. So every day when the creditors came to our house to demand my parents to pay the money, and we did not have any money, and for the days I was so fearful what would happen to us. I could escape in the books. I could travel to so many different countries. I could make new friends with people, and I dreamed to become a writer then. I was thinking, thank you. I was feeling so thankful for the authors who were writing these books because they gave me hope. And I was dreaming that one day I would be able to give hope to a little girl somewhere who was desperate for hope, who would read my book and feel uplifted. So I feel very honored to be here in Thailand, in Bangkok, the city that I love, and to share with you my writing passion. Thank you so much for being here.
So what is so impressive about your book is that your writing style is very poetic. And then it's also, there are many scenes in the book which are very, it's kind of emotional and could you please describe probably one episode? Because I was reading it's about Vietnam War, that it's not the Vietnam War presented to us. Mostly when we watch movies from the Vietnam War, it's from the Western point of view, mostly from the American point of view. But now it's from the Vietnamese point of view, from those who were in the war, from those who suffered the the suffered death and casualties who suffered. I remember one scene when the little girl went back home and then she lost everything, and it was so heartbreaking. So I would like you to probably describe one episode which is which is kind of that would very well depict how the Vietnamese felt about the impact of the Vietnam War on them, especially from the point of view of the little girl.
Thank you very much. Poetry is like the pillar of the Vietnamese society. We have. I remember I grew up with poetry surrounding us, because I was born into the war and I grew up during the war, and we didn't have much, but we had poetry that we learned by heart in our textbooks, poetry that were read to us every night on the public radio, and we woke up with poetry also in the early morning. And I remember the poetry of Transcend, who wrote có những phút ngã lòng tôi vịnh câu thơ và đứng dậy. In the moments of difficulty, I hold on to the verse of poetry and pull myself up. I remember during the difficult times of our history, Vietnamese people, we wrote poetry to give each other courage. And during the Vietnam War, there were poets who traveled to the battlefields to read poetry to the soldiers, to give them hope, to give them courage. And there are so many diaries of Vietnamese soldiers who were writing poetry in their diary each day. So poetry was really the livelihood of Vietnamese people. So I wanted to document that tradition, in my book. And for me to write English is crazy. You know how crazy it is, because I grew up in Vietnam, and my school did not have an English teacher until I was in high school. So the first time I encountered English when I was in 8th grade. So to write a historical novel about Vietnam, more than 300 pages in English, was just like an impossible task. But I wanted to write it with my poetic sensibility. I wanted to weave poetry into my prose, because normally if you watch Hollywood movies about Vietnam, we appear like people who don't have a voice. We are there to be killed or to be rescued by American soldiers. And I want to say, no, we are more than that. We are a country of more than 4,000 years of history and culture. We are the farmers who write poetry and read poetry to each other under moonlight. So to that scene that you talked about, I have two characters in my novel, one grandmother and one granddaughter. And the grandmother is taking the granddaughter to school when the house was bombed. And they came back to the house, and the little girl only saw a pile of rubble. But she saw a tree, a bang tree that was still collapsing, and she saw it as the symbol of survival. And I think it's if we have time later, I can read to you one of my poems. I hope you will read this book. And savor also Vietnamese food. I have a lot of food in this book. I love eating, and my readers get hungry reading this book too. I have, of course, Vietnamese poetry, but Vietnamese landscape. And I think one of the best ways to travel is to read a book, right? You are there with the people, you are there with the family, you are part of the family and a part of the culture too.
Since you mentioned the grandmother and the granddaughter, when I read your book, I could see the legacy passing on from the grandmother to the mother and then to the granddaughter. And this is very striking when you have the 3 generations of women narrating or suffering together. So how did you come back? How did you come up with that? Instead of having the males, now getting some males into the story, but here it's all females in the story. And then the 3 generations, and those who kind of very closely knit, very bonded together, in spite of the cruelty of war and violence.
Thank you. You know, I think Vietnamese women, you know, like the Vietnamese female football team is doing even better than the men's team. We qualified in the final round of the World Cup for the women's team. And also, if you go to Vietnam, you will see the street called Hai Bà Trưng. Can you say Hai Bà Trưng? Hai Bà Trưng. Hai Bà Trưng. Hai Bà Trưng. Wow, you sound like Vietnamese. So this is the street of the Trưng sisters. These are the Vietnamese heroes. They are 2 sisters who rode on elephants to lead the army of men to defeat the Chinese army at that time who invaded Vietnam. So throughout history, you know, Vietnamese women have done incredible things and possess such strength, but we are still looked down by our society. So there is a proverb that says, đàn bà đái không qua ngọn cỏ. Women can't pee higher than blades of grass. Can you imagine? We are still told in our face that we can't pee higher than blades of grass because we can't think big, we can't do big things. So you know, this book of mine is like contradiction of what society talks about Vietnamese women. But I also wrote this book to pay honor to my grandmothers because I grew up without my 2 grandmothers. Both of my grandmothers had died before I was born. So I wanted to get to know them. So this book is a result of my conversations with hundreds of people. I interviewed so many grandmothers in their kitchen, in the rice fields, in the gardens. I wanted to ask them what they went through, and I created Grandma Diệu Lan in the book to represent the grandmother I never had. And I feel so bad when readers write to me and say, I love your grandmother. I feel so bad because I tell them, I'm sorry, she's not real. But in a way, she's very real because, Grandma Diệu Lan represents so many lives of Vietnamese women who went through so many turbulent historical events of Vietnam, but who still, act as pillars, as mountains for our family and for our society.
Thank you very much. Please give a big round of applause to all the Thank you very much. And then at this moment, I would like to call upon Lao Yihua from Hong Kong, panelists. And Jemina Wei Si Ju, from Singapore, the original daughter, and Margarita Teresa Ortigas from the Philippines, the house on Calle Sombra. Please give them a big applause. To start with Jimina Sin Ju. Okay, the original daughter from Singapore. So please share with us your life, your writing career, your passion, and also the book, The Original Daughter, which wins the country award.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. My name is Jemima Wei. This is The Original Daughter. This is my debut novel, and it took me 9 years to write. I really want to talk about this novel, but very, very quickly, like 2 seconds. I just also want to say I too love to eat. Taiwanese food. And I have to explain what that dish is. Rural Fun is braised Taiwanese pork belly rice. It's so good. They have it with an egg. I just had to tell you before we move on. Okay, so now I will talk about my book. So the original daughter is set in Singapore. It starts in 2015 when a mother is on her deathbed. She's terminally ill, and she wants to see her two daughters together again. So she tells her daughter, Genevieve, the original daughter, like, I would love to see your sister, please call her. But at this point, Erin is a global Hollywood superstar, and it's impossible to reach her. And the daughter who was left behind is like, I'm not calling her, no thank you. And then the novel goes back to 1996 and tells you how these sisters came to be in the family together. Because they were not born into the same family. What happened was Erin was kind of like an instant sister. So these two sisters, one is adopted from the grandfather's family, the secret second family that he had in Malaysia. And out of the blue, when Genevieve is 8 years old, suddenly her grandmother says, well, your grandfather now has risen from the dead, and turns out there's a secret other family. They cannot afford to keep all their kids, we are taking one in. So with this instant sister, they grew up extremely intimate, competitive, codependent in a rapidly modernizing Singapore, very desperate to jump a class in whatever way possible. They try to do this through the pressure cooker of the academic system, and when things get really difficult, they discover the new frontier of the internet, YouTube and Instagram, and they're like, maybe this is how we can transcend the circumstances of our birth. And so on their journey towards achieving fame and fortune, they become violently estranged, and this novel is really about how this happened. This is a novel about independence and intimacy. It's about daydreaming and hustle culture, but most of all, it is a novel about our relationship to love.
Wow, that is impressive. So you have these two daughters. One is very famous, right? And the other one is kind of the underdog, right? So you are dealing with the relationship between the mother and the two daughters. So what universal truth do you want to convey to your readers about the relationship between the mother and the two daughters? Mother, first daughter, mother, second daughter, daughter and daughter, mother, daughter, daughter.
So relationships are really important to me in my life, and therefore also is very important to me in anything that I write. One of the central questions that I had while working on this novel is, what does it mean really to live with integrity in a world that's rapidly modernizing? Because I grew up in a time when Singapore was changing very rapidly. A year in Singapore today is not a year in Singapore yesterday or the day before. You know, I was sharing this in an interview a couple of days ago, but the schools I attended just less than 10 years ago don't exist anymore. There is a certain cultural currency to having a recognized history in Singapore, and in any country, honestly, but in Singapore, I think more so than ever because of
very rapid,
how quickly.
Today and yesterday.
Exactly, and we are a young country, we're only 61 this year, and it's just moved so quickly. And so, what I really am concerned with over the course of my work is, what does this do to a person in the society's character? How do we live with integrity and with each other? Because in a world where it's so competitive, relationships don't necessarily have the same immediate profitability, right? Or the same immediate return of investment the way other things do in a world that's set up for excellence and individual ambition. So for me, working on this novel, a question that I really wanted to know is what does failure do to us? How does it make us act and feel? For these girls, one is immediately one is very, very bright, and the other one is kind of trying to catch up. And their fortune's gonna rise and fall according to really how they can adapt to failure, because one gets knocked off her her momentum, and she finds it extremely difficult to come back up, and she starts to reorder her priorities in life. And the other is just working very steadily and kind of surpasses her, and that feeling about failing upwards, failing together, living with each other and learning to love each other in an expensive way, in a way that isn't competitive. It's something they both have to learn, but it's something that the entire society is really it's kind of hostile to, it's hostile to that kind of companionable relationship. So that question of how failure makes us act and feel is also an offshoot of what I was thinking while working on this book, which is, what tribulations and circumstances can love endure? In relationships that are not romantic, how do you keep choosing each other every day when it's so easy to draw a boundary and to say, this is me and that is you? So I was really interested in like putting these relationships through the ringer. And so you rightly pointed out that it's two daughters and a mother, and they are really competing with each other and for the mother's affection and vice versa. And this like relationship of love that they all have with each other is something that I really wanted to like pressurize through the book, because I think love can be its own form of chain. So if they're not able to confront or like talk about the issues that they have, what happens is the love they feel for each other also becomes its own kind of suffocation. I'm also interested in that. I guess I am less interested in those stories where people don't like each other that much and then they are like bye and then they move away. I'm like, no, I want to know what happens when you do love each other and that love is difficult. How many, I mean, who among us has not experienced a love where it's painful and you experience the small betrayals of being with each other, but you still want to, you know, keep going? And how does it look when you want to keep going? Where is the line where you say, I'm stepping away because I'm not able to form an individual dignity or like individual agency while being so entwined with another person? So these questions of how we live with each other, how we live in society, and how we live in a family are things that were really occupying me for 9 years. So yeah, I'm very glad the book is out.
So it took you 9 years to write this book.
Yeah.
And so along the way, did you feel like, oh, it's so long, it took so much time, I just would like to give up? And especially this is my first book, so I don't know what's going to come out after I finish this book. I don't know if I'm going to be accepted, well accepted. I don't know if going to be, I get any, not to mention being nominated to be a prize winner. So how do you overcome all these feelings?
With pure stubbornness. Because honestly, as a debut writer, you know, with your first book, your entire artistic identity is tied to this one book, right? So now I'm writing another book, but no matter what, even if I fail, I will always have a book. You know, people are like, oh, you're not a writer. I'll say, no, I have a book, you can go buy it. But with the first book, it's like an act of delusion. You're always like, this is gonna happen someday. You keep going, but it's like Schrodinger's novel, because if you stop writing, no one knew it existed, only you knew it existed. And so I think it's really challenging to be a debut. You put yourself in a psychologically vulnerable position for almost a decade. You believe in something that nobody else can see, but you have to believe in it strong enough to keep going. And it was really difficult, and many times I really thought I was going to give up, but I just couldn't because I'm stubborn. I was like, all right, I'll put this down, I'll go write another novel. And then that novel made its way into this novel. I was like, I'm back here again, so I better finish this novel so I can move on with my life. Yeah, it was really challenging, and I think I talk about it now in like an easy way because the book is out. I feel great about it, but for a long time it was really challenging to keep the faith. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Moving on to another country award winner, Margarita Teresa Ortigas. Could you please share with us your life, your writing career, your passion, whatever you would like to share, and also the book, The House on Calle Sombra.
Over there, A House on Calle Sombra. It has a Spanish word in it because it's really a look at the Philippines as told through the story of one family. And the Philippines, 350 years, very proudly or shamefully, the only colony in Asia was the Philippines of Spain. So we have Spanish word in the title to immediately put that out there. And sombra is the Spanish word for shadow. I originally wanted to call it the house on the street.
So it's calle.
Yes, calle is street.
Is street.
And sombra is shadow.
Street of shadow?
Yes.
Shadow street?
Yes. I originally wanted to call it that, but there was already a book called that in English. So I thought, oh, perfect, then let's make it Calle Sombra. But it's also the name of the mansion, of the house that this family lived in, with their secrets and their love and their pain and their fighting and all of that. Where does it come from? You know, it might seem like it's just like any other family saga, multi-generational drama and trauma, love, loss, fighting, betrayal. But what it comes from is I was a journalist for 30 years for 2 international networks. I worked for CNN first. My career started in the Philippines, where I was born and raised. I worked for CNN, and then I joined Al Jazeera, and we set up the office, and I was covering Southeast Asia and the Greater Asia Pacific. But while doing TV news, you really only get 2 to 3 minutes maximum to report on anything, right? So things are constantly changing, so your reports are there on TV for today, and tomorrow it's something else. There was nothing really long-lasting that you could sit with, that you could digest, that you could eviscerate, and then you can possibly then reframe for somebody else to really look at, take a breath, and try to understand better. So after 25 years of working in TV, I kind of got a little tired, and I just physically couldn't do it anymore. So I thought maybe I should just take a break for a little bit and just breathe. I unfortunately saved up enough to do that, and I thought I was going to give myself 6 months. I didn't know what to do, and my sister, who is here today, said, "Why didn't you write a book? You're always going on about writing a book, you know." So I thought, oh, that's an idea. So that's the first time I thought maybe I should do it. I always wanted to do it. As a kid, I'm sure like everybody else here, we were writers from the day we were born. It was a form of breathing, but I didn't think I could dare. It is like a form of delusion, and every time I thought, I'm going to be an author, that sounded more delusional to me than I'm going to be a reporter on TV, you know? So, I'm going to be an author was like, yeah, no way. But I gave myself 6 months to try. 6 months became a year, became 2, became 3. So it took me 5 years to get this book out. From the time the idea started to the day I had it published. So 5 years, not as long as Jemima's.
So during that time, you were also working as a journalist?
No, I had stopped. I had taken a break. It was supposed to be 6 months, but it just kept going, and the book just wouldn't end.
So this is like full-time writing?
Yes, I gave myself that break, and I said, I'll just finish it, I'll just get it done. And if it fails, it fails, but I did it, I tried, and then I'll go back to the news. So that was almost 10 years ago now. So I never quite went back to the news. I don't plan to anymore, at least not on camera. And so that's the idea came from, in the Philippines particularly, there's very distinct inequality. The wealth gap is very, very visible. You have very huge mansions, some even bigger than the houses you will see in Beverly Hills, and right around the corner you will have shanty towns. You know, cinder block homes or plywood homes with tin roofs. And it's literally like a few feet away. So it's very visible. And yet now, when you drive through many of those areas with the mansions, a lot of those mansions are abandoned. So the idea came from what happened to these families that used to live in these mansions, have built this multi-million-dollar homes, and now it's just run down with grass and vines and banyan trees eating into the foundation of these homes. And yet the Philippines is known for being where it is right now because it's controlled by families. It's a country of clan wars and oligarchy and feudalism, really is what it is. They control the power system, they control the water, they control media, everything is down to a family. Family is most important. So I really wanted to take the time to dive deep into what a family dynamic might be that then creates the greater society that the country has become. So that's what the book is. But it's written almost in a very light TV way. So it's an easy read, even though it seems really dense.
So apart from the family and the mansion, what other messages you would like to convey to your readers?
It's really I wanted it to be relatable because I didn't want it to be a local book, one that only Filipinos could read and understand. And so it was very important for me, especially with my background having worked for international news, that when I tell a story, somebody even halfway across the world has to be able to understand what I'm saying. Because at the end of the day, our cultures and our beliefs in our societies are trappings. That is what I have been taught, and that is what I have found to be true in all the years of working in news. All human beings are the same. We all want something, we all need something, we all love something. And that is central to everything I write, because what I want to do with my writing is strip away all the things that we think make us different, to show that really, ultimately, we are all the same. And if we can see past the differences that we think are there, then, as you've always said in every talk that we've had since we've been here, it really should be a peaceful world. It is the smallness in men's imagination that puts us where we are right now with these ideas of war and conflict.
Now that you're talking about the writing across cultures and borders, so and your works are deeply rooted in local history and cultures. All those mansions, the mansions were deserted. So how do you balance cultural specificity with the global accessibility
Because
and
I
with your
think, yeah.
journalistic background.
Because I
as
think
well.
for everything, really, the easiest unit for any human being to understand is family. Because we all either have one or are missing one, or looking for a sense of belonging. So I think that's why the root of the book is really that, it's family. And the house is just a symbol of a family, and how families might fall apart or come back together, or stay within that confined space even though they can't stand each other. And really, what is it that keeps you tied? And it's that sense of family that then either allows a country to rise or then could be its downfall. Because at the end of the day, what happens with the book is the enemy of this family, what tears it apart isn't outside, it's within.
So that is also true with many families.
With many families, with any
across,
families,
all
yes.
across the globe.
Yes.
No matter what races, no
Yes.
matter what cultures.
Yes. Yes.
And would you like to just give us one character that is close to your heart?
There's, the Philippines is a majority Christian nation. Maybe 13%, probably a little more now, is Muslim in the southern part of the country. So there's always stories about the Christians in the country and the Spanish who came and colonized, but very little is heard from those in the southern Philippines who are Muslim. So for me, the most important, most colorful character in the book is the matriarch, who is a Muslim woman from the southern Philippines, who had to flee because of clan wars, let's say, in her part of the country. But she becomes the matriarch of this family that then goes on to become one of the richest in the country, and all along, she has been seen as this Catholic woman, you know, and when people find out that she's Muslim, she's originally discriminated against until the wealth comes in. Because when the wealth can buy anything, including respect from others, right? Or at least the semblance of respect from others. But it's her fears and her own trauma from her past that then have made her raise her children the way she did, with fears of their own. And basically, her parenting style is because of what she had to go through. And so in a way, you are passing down your own traumas and your own fears. And so your children take that and turn that into something else that they then pass on to the next generation. So what I wanted to show was that in a way, the only way to heal for somebody who breaks that cycle, if not, it just keeps repeating. And not just within the family, but you see it in the history and the social events that goes on around them, politically speaking, in the book as well. Because it's historical fiction, it goes through martial law in the Philippines, the era of dictatorship, World War II, and the war on drugs of the most recent infamous president of the Philippines. So those are the three kind of big time events that the family has to live through and survive. But the women in the book are the silent, they're the silent narrators, I'd like to say, because the book is written seemingly from the perspective of a man, of the young boy, the grandson, but you see later on that he's really the one who has the least voice. And it's really all the women in the family that run it. As many Asian, I know at least in the Philippines, it is a very matriarchal society, but nobody talks about it like that. It's hidden. You think it's the men, but it's not. And then only leave because the women let them.
Thank you very much. Then, last but not least, I turn to the lady on the right, Lau Yua from Hong Kong, Toneless. Please share with us your life, your writing career, your passion, your ambition, your determination, and also something about your book, Toneless, please.
Hello, I'm Lau Yua. I'm from Hong Kong, and it is my debut, Toneless. When I was a kid, I loved reading books very much, and I want to be an author in the future. But in Hong Kong, literature is always not important. Actually, very few people love reading, and so when I gradually grow up and then I get to the university, I study Chinese language. Even though I still have a dream to be an author, but at that time I just think that if I want to be an author in Hong Kong, I would be very poor, and so I suppress my dream, and then I try to think that I may be a teacher, But you know, in Hong Kong, now maybe secondary school or primary school, they use Mandarin to teach Chinese, which is different from 20 years ago. When I was a kid, I used Cantonese. That is my mother language to learn Chinese. And if I want to be a Chinese teacher, I need to pass a Mandarin qualification exam. And because I hate Mandarin at that time, and actually I'm not good at language, and I don't want to attend the Mandarin qualification exam, and so I escaped to be a teacher, even though I'm qualified. I turned to be an editor later, and I have been an editor for 5 years. But finally, I found that I'm not quite suitable to be an editor, and I quit. And at that time, after I quit, I have no job, and I have a lot of time. I just think what I can do. So I try to write, because I have a lot of time, you know, to be a writer you need time, and I try to write. Actually, at that time, I'm not intend to be a writer. I just have a try. And after I have written several, I think 5 or 6 short stories, I joined a competition, which is a very large-scale competition in Hong Kong, a writing competition. And I won a champion in the short stories competition, which is out of my expectation, because I'm not experienced at all. I have just written about 5 or 6 short stories, but I won the competition. And then I try to think, oh, can I be a writer, an author as my career after I won the competition. And after I won the competition, I used about 1 year to write my debut novel, and then I published in Hong Kong. But unluckily, my book is published in 2019, and you know, in Hong Kong, 2019, we have a very big protest, and at that time, people are thrilled in politics, and they walk on the streets, and no one cares about books, especially literature. So I have printed about 1,000 copies at that time, but after the book published 1 year, only 50 or 60 copies sold. And at that time, I tried, because is that my book so bad that no one interested? And then I just want to give up, because no one read my book. But very luckily, I know my agents in an event, and then I know some friends who introduced me to the agents, and then I have some translation in overseas, and I'm very lucky here. I'm on the stage, and I'm shortlisted, and which is I have never emerged in Hong Kong, and so that's it.
I would say that you were talking about stubbornness, you're talking about your great determination in writing and in moving forward without giving up. Now, the book, the book Tongueless, this is, I have read it and oh my goodness, this one is highly symbolic. You're playing with the language. It's like you've given us the image of the tongue, and also the language Mandarin and Cantonese, and also the right to speak. So how do you come up with that? It's highly, everything is like very symbolic in that. So how do you come up with this?
Actually, if you are outside of Hong Kong, you will think that it is a language play. But if you are a Hong Konger, you will think that, oh, it is our original speaking, because when we speak our language, we use Cantonese. But at the same time, we mix with a lot of English, And at the same time, because you know Hong Kong has a lot of mainlanders, we speak Mandarin as well, and so we mixed with 3 language. And in the book, I just want to portray the real Hong Kong people speaking as my book, but because you know at this moment the government become more strict, and the government even hope that more and more people speak Mandarin. And in the past, Hong Kong, many people speak Cantonese. If your mother language is Mandarin, sometimes you will think that, oh, I need to hide my mother language because the majority is speaking Cantonese, and if I speak Mandarin, it means that I'm from mainland China and people will look down on me. But now in Hong Kong, many people come from mainland China and settle in Hong Kong, and so many people speak Mandarin, and they just think that, oh, it is a common language and we speak on the streets, there's no problem. And so I don't think that it is a language play, it is just what happened in Hong Kong. Yeah.
And also the opening of the book, the first episode of the book, when talking about the suicide of a school teacher, and then that is also another school teacher, and the 2 of them were close. So with that opening, it's really a very tragic opening. It's shocking opening. So what impact would you like to make on the reader on that?
Actually, you know, it is my debut novel.
Could you please describe that episode, the very opening of the book?
Okay. The opening of the book happened on the first day of the academic years, and one of the protagonists, Lang, go to another protagonist's wife desk to take something, and at that time, wife has already committed suicide, and on the desk of wife, she puts a lot of mirror on her desk, and so when Lang go to wife desk, she looked at the mirror and see herself, and she was very afraid because she think that, oh, is wife ghost come back, or will I be another wife to suffer what wife has suffered before? And so it is the opening. Why I write this opening is because why and Lang is mirror characters. Mirror is a very important metaphor in my novel, because even though they have different personality, but the 2 characters suffer the same thing and they have similar decision. Why? She used committed suicide to totally destroy herself, because she thinks that she can't fit in the institution. She can't meet the boss order. And Lang, another protagonist, she haven't committed suicide, but she chose to have plastic surgery to change her whole face, to make herself more unlike the boss, to make her can meet the boss order. And so they have similar decision. So my novel is just like the structure is. The first part is the story of wife, and I make her commit suicide, and the second part is Lang, how she avoid to follow what wife suffers, but finally she has the same ending with wife.
Thank you. So you're talking about yourself as a young writer, and then you have to experience a lot of disappointments. And what advice do you have, if looking ahead, what role do you hope that your writing will play in shaping emerging writers?
Actually, last few days, a young friend, asked me how much you earn as a writer. I told him, if you really want to be a writer in Hong Kong, don't expect to earn money. And I don't mean to discourage him, but it is the fact. I don't know if it is the proper way to encourage people in Hong Kong to be a writer. It's just like give them suffering. But if you really want to write in Hong Kong, I don't know other parts of the world, but if you really want to write in Hong Kong, just be brave and then and have expectation that you can't earn anything. But you can enjoy and you can express your voice, because in Hong Kong history is suppressed after 2019, and it is important that we have recording of our daily life, our history. It is very important to write literature. Yes. But I don't think that I would encourage people to be a writer.
Yes. Thank you very much for being very realistic, probably too realistic. So we'll take a break for about 15 minutes. We'll come back for the second segment of this panel discussion.